In March 1943, the North Atlantic had become a watery graveyard, a battlefield where the fate of Britain hung by a thread. German submarines, or U-boats, operating in deadly coordinated wolf packs, were sinking an average of 5 Allied merchant ships every single day, outpacing the production capabilities of American and British shipyards and threatening to strangle the flow of food, steel, and fuel to the British Isles. The mathematics of the Atlantic War were stark and terrifying. In March alone, U-boats sent 108 Allied ships to the bottom, representing more than 727,000 tons of desperately needed supplies. Wheat rotted in Canadian silos because there weren't enough hulls to carry it. Steel that should have armed British factories rusted in American ports, and aviation fuel meant for RAF bombers fed fires in the mid-Atlantic. Instead, sailors understood the deadly calculus of convoy duty all too well. Of 43 ships that departed New York with convoy SC, 22 in early March. 9 never reached Liverpool, a staggering 21% casualty rate. The slower HX-229 convoy traveling parallel lost 13 vessels in just 72 hours, while survivors treading the icy waters watched U-boats surface, tally their kills, and dive again, leaving rescue ships racing from one sinking to another across 50 square miles of ocean. The Wolfpack system was devastatingly effective. German headquarters positioned 20 to 30 submarines in patrol lines stretching 500 miles across convoy routes. When one U-boat spotted a convoy, it shadowed it and broadcasted position reports. Others converged and attacked simultaneously at night, slipping past lookouts' eyes, only to scatter at dawn and regroup for the next ambush. British calculations suggested that at this rate, the merchant fleet could cease to exist by autumn 1943, putting every Allied military plan, including a future invasion of occupied Europe, in jeopardy. The Allies faced an existential problem. The United States was producing tanks, aircraft, artillery, and vehicles at unprecedented rates, but none of it mattered if it could not cross the Atlantic. Britain's food imports had fallen to 2/3 of peacetime levels, and rationing tightened weekly. Aerial coverage could protect convoys near coastlines, but a mid-Atlantic gap, 800 miles wide, remained a sanctuary for U-boats, which surfaced to recharge batteries and communicate with headquarters with near impunity. Traditional solutions were insufficient. Long-range bombers were committed to striking German cities. Fleet carriers were tied up in the Pacific, and destroyers could only react to attacks rather than prevent them. Spring 1943 represented the crisis point. Germany seemed poised to win the campaign that could render all other Allied victories meaningless. Without control of the Atlantic supply lines, there would be no second front, no liberation of Europe, no victory at all. The solution came in the most unglamorous form imaginable. The Escort carrier industrialist Henry Kaiser proposed a radical idea. Take a merchant hull, weld a flight deck on top, add a small island superstructure and catapult system, and push the entire vessel out of the shipyard in 90 days, while admirals dreamed of 30,000-ton fleet carriers with armor and 30-knot speeds. Kaiser's Jeep carriers, or baby flat-tops, displaced only 11,000 tons, reached 19 knots, and carried 27 aircraft in a cramped hangar deck. But they could be produced en masse. Kaiser's Vancouver shipyard in Washington state revolutionized shipbuilding by prefabricating entire sections of hull and superstructure for assembly line welding, a process that horrified traditional naval constructors but worked astonishingly well. The first Casablanca-class escort carrier, USS Casablanca herself, launched on April 5, 1943, after just 5 months of construction, compared to 2.5 years For a fleet carrier, Kaiser promised 50 carriers in 18 months. A goal defense officials, impressed by his Liberty ship record, believed achievable. Critics complained about short flight decks, lack of armor, and slow speeds, dismissing them as barely adequate for training. But these carriers were designed for convoy escort, not fleet engagements, and could put aircraft over U-boats in the Black Pit, the critical mid-ocean gap where the wolf packs hunted freely. The escort carriers were paired with revolutionary anti-submarine technology. Traditional depth charges required destroyers to pass directly over a U-boat, blinding sonar for 15 minutes and allowing submarines to escape. The British Hedgehog system changed the game. 24 mortar projectiles fired ahead of the ship in a circular pattern only detonated on direct contact with a submarine, allowing ships to maintain sonar contact and greatly increasing kill probability. Meanwhile, HFDF, or HFDF, high-frequency direction-finding equipment, could triangulate German radio transmissions. U-boats, forced to surface to transmit convoy positions, effectively broadcasted their location to Allied escorts. The combination of escort carriers, Hedgehog mortars, and HFDF transformed the Atlantic War. The hunters became the hunted. USS Bogue launched her first anti-submarine patrol on May 1, 1943, carrying 9 Avenger torpedo bombers and 12 Wildcat fighters. Her pilots, ignoring official doctrine, adopted low-altitude, high-speed attack tactics that proved devastatingly effective. Lieutenant William Fowler sank U-569 on May 2 by diving to 50 feet above the waves, dropping depth charges while the U-boat scrambled to dive. Lieutenant Stuart Doty repeated the tactic on May 5 against U-231, and Lieutenant Commander Charles Hutchkins destroyed U-752 on May 9. 3 U-boats destroyed in 9 days represented more kills than many escort carriers would achieve in their entire service lives. Aircraft modifications made by crew, including auxiliary fuel tanks for extended range and improvised rocket rails on Wildcats, further enhanced effectiveness, often ignoring official approval, but multiplying combat impact. The pragmatists, mechanics, and pilots working with ingenuity outperformed traditional officers bound by doctrine, and their improvisation spread fleet-wide. From May 10th to May 21st, coordinated patrols by USS Bogue, Card, Core, and Santee obliterated 41 U-boats, forcing Admiral Karl Dönitz to issue retreat orders and marking Germany's first strategic defeat in the Atlantic. The economic and tactical calculus shifted dramatically. Each $50,000 aircraft attack destroyed a $2 million U-boat and 50 trained crewmen, while escort carriers costing $7 million each could cover vast ocean areas and sink multiple submarines. Germany could not match American production rates. Their U-boats, painstakingly precision-built, required 6 months each, and the losses in May exceeded 3 months of production. The Wolfpack system, once a terror of the Atlantic, was broken. Allied merchant losses fell from 600,000 tons in March to under 100,000 tons by July, allowing vital food, steel, and fuel to flow freely and making D-Day logistically feasible. Germany's attempts to rebuild the U-boat force and deploy snorkel-equipped subs arrived too late. The escort carriers, unglamorous, slow, and seemingly inadequate, had delivered a decisive victory, demonstrating the power of industrial pragmatism, mass production, and frontline ingenuity. They would go on to sink 69 submarines, protect thousands of merchant vessels, and win the war that truly mattered: the battle for the Atlantic.